Welcome to this explainer. Right now, as you're watching this, there's an invisible war raging on servers you've probably never even heard of. But this time, the front lines aren't just manned by human security teams. Nope. An AI is autonomously hunting for microscopic holes in the code that runs literally half the internet, and it's not looking to exploit them. It is racing to fix them before a human researcher or a criminal ever even knows they exist. Today, we're breaking down a massive new expansion from OpenAI called Daybreak, which is fundamentally changing what patching software actually means.
Can AI fix the internet before hackers break it? It's a massive question, right? Imagine a high-stakes, ticking clock scenario like Pwn to Own. It's one of the biggest live hacking competitions in the entire world. Millions of dollars are on the line. The absolute best hackers on the planet have been prepping for months to crack into systems, and suddenly the vulnerabilities they plan to use just vanish. They're patched at machine speed. This isn't some hypothetical scenario from a sci-fi movie anymore. As we'll see a bit later in this explainer, this just happened. And the code this AI is protecting is the exact same foundational infrastructure that you and I rely on every single day.
Section 1. The cybersecurity bottleneck, moving from finding to fixing. Okay, let's dive into this because we really have to reframe how we think about the entire problem. Historically, the whole cybersecurity narrative has been all about discovery, but finding bugs just isn't the primary issue anymore. AI is already absolutely incredible at scanning massive code bases and spotting vulnerabilities. The real bottleneck today is the sheer lack of human patchers. A massive pile of AI-generated vulnerability reports doesn't actually make anything safer if there's literally no one there to validate those reports, test the fixes, and actually ship the patches.
Step 1. Find. Step 2. Validate. Step 3. Fix. Step 4. Ship. And that brings us to the core philosophy of Daybreak. It is designed to close the entire loop. Daybreak doesn't just stop at finding the bug, it actually confirms if the bug is real and exploitable, which is the validation phase. Then it writes a proposed fix, and finally, it prepares the whole thing to ship. But here is the absolutely crucial part. It keeps a human as the final reviewer before that code ever goes live. It's an end-to-end pipeline meant to empower humans, not replace them.
GPT 5.5 versus GPT 5.5 Cyber. Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer jump in capability. To power this loop, OpenAI upgraded their underlying model to a highly specialized version called GPT 5.5 Cyber. Standard GPT 5.5 was already pretty great, scoring 81.8% on the CyberGym Vulnerability Discovery benchmark, but the specialized Cyber variant jumps to 85.6%. Even more impressively, consider the Exploit Gym benchmark, which measures real exploit capabilities. That score nearly doubled, going from roughly 26% to almost 40%. This model can trace a vulnerable code is actually reachable by an attacker and prepare hard, concrete evidence for a human to review.
We've got Codex Security, GPT 5.5 Cyber, the Cyber Partner Program, and Patch the Planet. So how is this toolkit actually structured? Well, it's built on 4 distinct pillars. We just talked about the engine, GPT 5.5 Cyber, but the first tool you'd actually interact with is Codex Security. Since its preview in March, Codex has already scanned over 30 million code commits across more than 30,000 code bases. That's huge! It builds a map of realistic attack paths and tests vulnerabilities in an isolated sandbox. Then we have the Cyber Partner Program and this incredibly cool open-source initiative called Patch the Planet, which are both absolutely crucial to how this tech actually reaches the real world. Cisco, Cloudflare, CrowdStrike, Palo Alto Networks, IBM, and Zscaler. Speaking of the Cyber Partner Program, we are looking at total heavyweights here. OpenAI isn't just handing out raw access to their highly capable cyber models to anyone who asks for it. Instead, they're embedding what they call trusted access for cyber directly into these major security products. What this means is that vetted security companies can utilize this immense power safely, right within their existing tools, protecting their customers without just unleashing raw cyber models onto the open web.
Section 2. Inside the workflows, how Daybreak operates. So we know what the tools are, but how do they actually operate in practice? To understand the real-world impact, we really need to look at 2 very distinct workflows that OpenAI has set up. The first is an internal workflow. Just imagine our private development team using Daybreak to harden its own proprietary code before it ever even ships. But the second workflow is an open-source initiative. And guys, this is where things get incredibly dynamic.
A fire hose of potential findings. That's a direct quote from Trail of Bits. This open source workflow is called Patch the Planet, and it's built alongside the security firm Trail of Bits. They point these models at foundational open source projects, things like Python or the Go programming language. But as Trailer Bits noted, the AI generates a literal fire hose of potential findings. You absolutely cannot hand hundreds of AI-flagged maybes to an already exhausted open source maintainer who is probably running on pure caffeine and volunteer hours anyway. It would just drown them. So human security researchers from Trail of Bits act as an essential filter. They validate which findings are actually real before the maintainer ever even sees them, effectively turning a chaotic fire hose into a manageable stream of genuine fixes.
64 pull requests. The speed of this filter pipeline is just staggering. In just a single 5-day sprint, this exact workflow generated 64 pull requests and flagged 51 confirmed issues across 19 different foundational open source projects. Just think about the hundreds of human hours that would normally take. We are talking about fundamentally hardening the open source infrastructure of the whole internet in a matter of days. CVE 2026-8390. Okay, actually stop. The most dramatic proof of concept happened right here with this bug. This was a critical vulnerability in the Firefox browser. During standard safety evaluations, OpenAI's models caught this exact bug. And because of this rapid pipeline, Mozilla was actually able to ship the fix just 2 days before Pwn2Own Berlin. That massive live hacking competition we talked about earlier? 5 withdrawn teams, 1 remaining team. Get this, the real-world payoff of that speed is incredible. Out of 6 teams that had registered to hack Firefox at Pwn2Own, 5 of them had to withdraw entirely. The exploit they had spent months and months developing simply didn't exist anymore. The AI defended the system at literal machine speed, totally neutralizing the threat before it could ever be weaponized on a global stage. Section 3, the catch. Darker implications. So the crucial point is, this isn't just some simple victory lap. We have to address the darker implications here. A tool that is this effective at hunting down and proving vulnerabilities is a massive double-edged sword. That's exactly why access to Daybreak is so incredibly tightly controlled. You can't just go and download this model. Organizations have to formally request vulnerability assessments or go through rigorous sales channels. Because honestly, in the wrong hands, this pipeline is incredibly dangerous. The Five Eyes warning. AI-assisted cyber attacks will transform offensive capability within months. In fact, literally the exact same week this expansion launched, intelligence agencies from the Five Eyes Alliance issued a pretty severe warning. They stated that AI-assisted cyber attacks will transform offensive capabilities not in years, but within months. We have to look at this impartially. The exact same underlying technology that traces an attack path to suggest a fix can, if weaponized, trace that exact same path to execute an attack. The tension between defensive and offensive AI is a dangerous tightrope we are actively walking right now.
Can AI patches be trusted in live production? Aside from the obvious security threat, there's a very practical industry concern here. High benchmark scores in a controlled, isolated sandbox are fantastic, but can AI-generated patches truly be trusted when they're pushed out to live production systems running our critical infrastructure? What happens if an AI patch introduces a new, completely unforeseen bug, or has a high false positive rate that just breaks a live server? Trusting the AI to find the problem is one thing, but trusting it to write code for systems that hospitals, banks, and governments rely on, that's an entirely different frontier.
March brought the Codex preview, May was Anthropic's Mythos preview, and now we have the Daybreak expansion. And this brilliantly illustrates a much larger picture. Back in March, we had the Codex preview. Then in May, a rival AI lab, Anthropic, released a preview of their own cybersecurity research called Mythos, revealing some major existing vulnerabilities. And now we have OpenAI's massive Daybreak expansion. We are actively watching an escalating defensive AI arms race. Major labs are aggressively competing to patch the internet's infrastructure way faster than their rivals' models can find new holes in it.
Does cybersecurity become less about finding problems and more about trusting the fix? Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from all of this. If an AI can find a critical vulnerability, map the exact exploit, and draft the perfect patch before a human even knew the bug existed, does cybersecurity become less about finding problems and more about whether we are willing to trust the machine's fix? It's a pretty haunting reality we're moving into very quickly. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. If you want to keep staying ahead of these massive shifts, like, share, and subscribe, please, and drop a comment in comment box.